going to affect this as we move forward. We don't know the extent of what that is going to be, as nobody can predict what the conditions are going to be. We may benefit. There may be people looking for projects like this when we come out the other side of this thing. But we really just don't know. So I hate to say that, but that's the situation. But generally, right now, we're on track on budget and on schedule. Next slide, please, Matt. So you can see here in the project timeline, we're right on schedule with the 60% submission of the construction documents. And those will be moving forward and going in on April 6th. That's all I've got.
Thank you, Simon. Now I'm just going to kind of walk through what we've been doing through this phase of work, which is the 60% construction documents phase. The last time we did this was at the submission of the design development set to the MSBA. And since that time, we've been working through finalizing information and feedback that we need to get from the town and the school department. And we've been also focused, the design team has been focused on getting the construction documents in shape to be able to put them out to bid, which will be coming in, the final bid for the project will be in August. So over this phase, we've had a whole slew of working group meetings with educators, with officials from the town. This will be our third school building committee meeting during this phase. We've had an MSBA meeting in our office to go over the status of the project and the steps going forward into construction. We've submitted a Department of Elementary and Secondary Education, and that was done through the MSBA. We've had one public forum earlier in the year, and then we invited the abutters of the school property to meet with us individually, and 19 of those accepted, and meetings with each of them. Since the construction manager has been brought on board, Bond Brothers, we've been having weekly owner-architect contracts. Those are really to just go over a checklist of tasks that we need to be completing in order to prepare the project for construction. We have actually issued the first bid package, which was for abatement and demolition, and the guaranteed maximum price was signed for that subcontract, brought on board, and they're in the process of preparing for getting work going on this. The DPW has reviewed our utility design and given us their comments. In addition to that, we've had 3 separate entities review the entire project team's construction document set at this stage, including Hill, the owner's project manager, Bond, the construction manager, and the commissioning agent on the project, WST. There is a structural peer review that's required by code, and that is underway as we speak. There's a construction testing agency that needs to be in place when the project starts construction. And so far, an RFP, a request for proposal, has been drafted for that, put out so that they can be brought on board. The team has undertaken their trade subcontractor pre-qualification process. That's to approve to a bid for the trade work on the project. And then lastly, we've done additional soil testing this time to characterize soil so that we know what kind of what condition it is that may affect what types of sites it can be disposed at. which has cost implications. So that's been completed, and the cost implications are reflected in the cost estimate that's been completed. And to remind you the status of the design, we've shown you the site plan in several iterations, so this should look familiar to you, and it hasn't really changed very much for the last month. And the same goes with the overall floor plans of the building. There's minor tweaks here and there, but in the end, it probably won't look too much different than what it looked like shortly after the completion of design development. So the next slides, I'm going to show you examples of the types of drawings that the team has been producing over the phase of this project, and a complete set of these drawings is in hard copy at Town Hall, and also available to the building committee electronically if they want to look through these full set. This is a site layout drawing done by our civil engineer. A lot of the information that's needed to be able to know how to configure the curbs, the roadways, pathways, and some of the many. This drawing is a drawing of the some building sections that the architectural set includes. These sections are cut through on the top, the auditorium, and then below that, the wing that has the art rooms on the second floor and the office on the first floor. And then below that is a building section through the fabrication lab and the music classroom. And this slide is a view of the structural framing model that our engineer has produced. It uses this model to generate all of the drawings and views of the project needed for construction. And lastly, this is a plan of one of the academic wings with the ductwork shown in the classroom. Just the idea of the typical layout of ductwork in a classroom wing. So just a chance to keep you up to date on what's in the project scope at this point. And we've tried to highlight the things that have been discussed previously, or we think that are of particular interest to the building committee members or are members of the public because they've been discussed at some degree in the past. In the project right now, we have the 3 heating boilers, which is good news because that provides full redundancy to the building at the coldest days of the year. If a boiler goes down, the other 2 would still be able to handle the heating load of the building. And it has some bearing on the life expectancy of the boilers too. They will last a little bit longer. The project has the full set of theater equipment in the auditorium that was reviewed and selected with the school department, and that allows them to do the full range of theatrical performances from plays and into musical performances and orchestra performances. Additionally, we have the full set of fitness and play equipment presented anytime, so that's all in the project, and that's all been reviewed and approved by the school department and the working group that was set up for that. We have manual operable partitions in the project that are in the 6th grade classrooms. They allow the advanced math classroom to be opened up to join the English and social studies classroom. We also have the sunscreens on the area of the building at the classroom windows and over the main entrance in the base project. We have the higher performing glass that we've been specifying all along the windows. That's a type of a triple pane glass, which is a very good thermal performance. A 250 volt emergency generator. There was some back and forth between up to that 500 emergency generator, but ultimately the cost dictated that we're going to stay with the 250 emergency generator, which will supply everything we need to meet the building code, safety, life safety. Base project, we have a 60 mil roofing membrane, a 20-year warranty, and I will speak to an ad alternate that we're going to continue to carry, which is related to this. In the next slide, we have the Memorial Garden with engraved brick pavers. And those pavers will have the engravings of the teachers who have memorials in the current garden today, and allow engravings for future teachers and staff who will be added to this down the line. And we also have the interior memorial obelisk. The memorial obelisk will be stationed at the interior as we presented before. It was decided through the working group meetings to not have the outdoor fountain associated because of the complexity and the cost associated with it, but we will maintain that feature in the interior just adjacent to the Memorial Garden. We have good news. We were able to afford putting back the original materials that we presented in the town square on the walls of the lab forms there. And those were wood and a metal and resin wall material. At one point, we thought we weren't going to be able to maintain those, but we were able to modify the roof to save some money, and with that, we paid for getting those materials back. And I will show you a slide what that looks like in a couple of minutes from now. Associated with that, we've also modified the design of the ceiling there to something that we think is a nicer, more pleasing design, and that image that shows you that. We are carrying the disposal costs of some of the soils that were tested to be have a higher range of arsenic. That means they have to be disposed of in certain landfills, which have a higher disposal cost, and that's reflected again in the estimate. And lastly, I'm also pleased to say that we've been able to include the extended van loop canopy into the base project. That was something that we weren't sure if we were going to be able to go forward, and we had been carrying it as an alternate, but through this process, we've been able to include it into the project. That is a canopy that allows full cover over the users who are coming, who are being dropped off and picked up on vans at the loop into the secondary entrance, the north side of the building. And this slide is a list of the ad alternates that we currently plan on including in the bid set for the project. So there are certain things that we needed to make a decision on by this point, such as the van loop canopy or the generator, that aren't practical to include as bidding alternates, but we do have a few things that are fairly easy to include going forward, which includes upgrading the roof to a 90-mil roof, which allows us to specify a 30-year warranty for that. We also plan on adding the higher performing glass, that triple pane type glass, at the large glass areas, the curtain wall areas. In the base project, we just have it at the window throughout the project, but this would allow us to carry that through to the large curtain wall area. The next one is to add sunscreens at the neighborhood collaborative area where we have a lot of glass. There's 3 neighborhood collaborative areas, and we're hoping to include sunscreens at those to help minimize glare and heat load in the interior spaces. But that currently is being carried as an alternate. And lastly, we're hoping to have an alternate which would describe an increase in the plantings and the soil in the design by about 15%. That's something that kind of has been kind of minimized in many locations, and we're hoping to a little bit of that should the bids come in to be favorable. And right now, we're planning to include these alternates in the order that they're listed here, so that if you take one and you want to take another, you would have to take them in order they're listed. That will be reviewed again before we finalize these and go out to bid with the building committee. I mentioned that we modified the roof. We reduced some of the pop-ups up beyond the main roof levels, which we, in our analysis, we determined that their kind of visual impact from outside the building was not as great as maybe what we expected earlier in the design, and we saw that as a way of saving some money to pay for those finishes on the interior in the town square. And what you're seeing here are 2 images on the top, which are the same view looking at the main entrance of the building, where the view on the left, you see the previous design, which had this roof form standing up here over the media center. And then you can see on the right what that looks like after we've reduced that height of the roof form, and we've made it coplanar with the rest of the roof in that area. So not a big change, as you can see, and we think it's worth it. Additionally, another view of what it looks like in the commercial drop-off loop. You're seeing this roof form here, if you can see my cursor, hopefully, which was that roof over the media center and the roof over the theater arts, like previously. Then now with the current that roof here, and you don't see any of the pop-up from this angle of theater arts in this. And moving to the next slide. Taking time. I'll just say that, as you can see from these images, it was probably a bit of a game of I Spy, where you're trying to find out what the actual difference is between the 2 pieces. And I hope reinforces the idea that choice made sense. So going on to the interior at the town square, the image on the left is what the previous design had. Last time we showed it to the building committee, which was in January, we presented what we thought was the cost savings to all the acrylic cladding on the 3 lab and different colors. And that design had what we were calling the sawtooth ceiling, acoustic ceiling planes kind of tilt up and have a gap between them. the image on the right shows you what we've been able to go to, where we've gone back to the original materials. On the media center, we have the kind of sea glass appearance of the acrylic panels. We have the wood slats on the theater arts and broadcast volume, and then just in the foreground, the corrugated metal cladding on the culinary lab and expeditionary lab volume. And in addition to, we made this change to the ceiling. We felt that the previous design, the scale of it was kind of in conflict with the other elements in the space. It was a little bit too jarring with the, with the lot that was already happening with the curvilinear forms and the different materials. And so we looked for something that was more uniform, but still had some interest. And so what we ended up with is a product that creates these triangular panels. And in between the panels is a gap of about 6 inches that's open to the structure above. We're planning to paint that out so that all the structure and the building mechanicals that are up there will all somewhat disappear. But you can see that the treatment now is kind of just uniform across the space, and I think lends a better look to the space. So last part of this, I want to talk about where we are with the cost and what's been occupying the team really for the last 6 weeks or so. And the good news is that with our $128,15641 construction budget, we ended up with 2 cost estimates, which were, when they were reconciled, were close and not too far off of our budget. Bond Brothers, our construction manager, has the estimate of record, which means that's the one that we really need to meet the budget. PMNC, who is the estimator, is there at check the other estimate. So Bond Brothers number was $1.5 million above our $128 million construction budget, which is pretty close. And PMNC's was slightly low at that. So with that, we were able to go into a process of targeting value management to get us down to the budget, to get us $1 million savings for the project. And through a lengthy process and a lot of good input from each of the entities and stakeholders, we were able to go to that down there and we try to go change. Here we go. So this is the list that we ended up with. Again, the target was on top, 1,507,1. We can't use list of items, and we ended up at 1,509,75. So just a couple $1,000 is what we needed to. And I will run through each of these, and I'm sure there will be questions about them. Please take any notes of questions you may have, so you can try to answer those. The first, after evaluating view angles from different vantage, determined that we were able to get rid of one of the rooftop visual screens that found and try to conceal the unsightly rooftop that we have in some place. And one of them that we had that we thought we might need, turns out we didn't. We took advantage of that and we were able to save $8,000. The second one is a pledge to eliminate 10% of the interior windows in the project and just replace them with just some walls. We have a good amount of inside looking between spaces, and we felt that this was a fairly unpainful thing to do. That was a number, $40,000 of savings. Next was, we had put a number in there for including electrical submetering in the building, which breaks down the electrical use into a finer grain that can be recorded for data that you can evaluate. And that would achieve a 1 point project. After some checking, we determined that we think we're in good enough shape that 1 lead point was not worth $370,000, and we'd still be able to get the 2% reimbursement through the goals that the town is looking to get. So town confirmed that the submetering was not something that they were looking to have in the project or found particularly useful in any event. Next one was to go with a higher designed boiler temperature, allowed the amount of radiant ceiling panels in the project. The implications of that were that you have fewer ceiling panels, which is better. But it meant that a couple of things. It has a slight energy penalty to it, and we found that it was less than 1% of the energy use would go up due to this. Additionally, in the future, the town couldn't swap out the gas boilers for electric in the event that they may want to convert to be an all-electric building at some point down the line, which would be something in line with becoming zero project. You're utilizing solar panels on the roof of the building to provide all your energy use. So that was a big number, and we felt it was not worth within the lower water temperature, the radiant panels. Next one. We talked about the triangular ceiling design in the town square, and we originally carried a higher cost type of ceiling panels for those triangular panels, and this is a savings to go to a panel, a tectum, which is a wood or acoustic panel. It has a little bit of a change in appearance, but otherwise affecting the acoustics of the space. It was worth it for $132,000. The next one is sunscreens that have already been neighborhood collapse areas, which we removed from the base project and we moved them into an ad alternate to save $78,000 in the base project. Hope to be able to get those back. Next one, reduce the auditorium ceiling factors from 50 to 31. This is something we reviewed with our acoustic engineer, and they were able to tell us that of the floating ceiling reflectors that we have in the design, 31 of them are really necessary to maintain the right kind of acoustic character for the space, and that allowed us to realize over $100,000. Next one was changing the roof material and the soffit material where the art rooms kind of project out from the rest of the wing from a zinc exterior metal panel to an aluminum metal panel. And that's something that we think works better with the design anyway. The roof and the soffit will now match what the wall panels are on the art rooms and make them kind of looking designed. That was saving us 40. To simplify the guardrails on the catwalks in the auditorium, and carries a more complicated panel, and we were able to get down to something that was simple and would provide what we need for. going to be seen. It didn't need to look like the other photograph. And that really was $10,000. We had wood paneling in back of water fountains and alcoves around throughout the building, and we changed to ceramic tile, and that allowed us 65. Next was to reduce the quantity of display cases from 42 to 32 throughout the project, and that's still 32 is still quite a good number to have. That we felt was getting the $56,000 savings there. And then the next three are just changing ceiling, mostly in kind of the back of house or locker room area around the gymnasium, from to acoustic set tile, and from tectum ceiling to gypsum wallboard ceiling, and from suspended acoustic tile ceiling to an exposed seating area. And so combining those realized up in the high $20,000 of savings, or over 30,000, I should say. And then the next one is to admit a cost carried in the estimate for repointing of existing brick masonry at the gym, because we're completely cladding all of the existing brick. We need to worry about anything. We took that out. Lastly, second to last is reducing the depth of the planting soils from 12 inches to inches throughout the project. And that was $80,000. And again, we may be able to get some of that back if we're able to get that one add alternate included in the project. But that just brings you down to the minimum depth of planting soil that you would want where you have lawns. 12 inches is a kind of nice to have, but not necessary. And lastly, we added, this is where we added in the extended canopy at the van roof of the project, which put $100,000. The project with that meets our total target with the $1,509,000 at the end. So that's what I have for presentation. There's one more slide left, which is about language, the submission. But I turn it back over now for questions, or if Ted wants to take back.
Thanks, Matt. I think what I'm going to do, I think there's 10 committee members in the meeting, kind of spread out. I think what I'm going to do is just call on you individually, and either unmute or I'll unmute you, and I'll just go down the list, and then if you have any questions or comments, you can make them after I call out your name. So just my comment, I'm a big fan of the triangular design and the main space there. I think that's a great improvement to that space. And I'm glad, and I just thank everyone for getting to where we are, where the 60% was a little easier than the last step, but still a lot of work that went into getting this list, which I think is fairly minimal impact to the project. With that, Donna, you're the first on the list. Do you have any questions or comments?
No, I like the new paneling as well. It looks better with the design. And I'd still like to see us be able to get to the 90mm roof.
Yeah, I agree. It's first on the list, so hopefully we can do that.
Right.
Thank you. Next on the list is John McLeod. Any questions, comments?
Not much. Great job, team, for getting these numbers in line. That's all.
Thank you. Next looks like Kathy. Any comments, questions?
Yes, can you hear me?
Yep.
How do I stop the reverb?
Yeah.
Kathy, are you on a phone and on your computer? That's what the feedback is.
Yeah, it looks like it's showing up twice.
You need to get out of one or the other.
Copy?
I'm here.
Okay. All right. Well, you can figure that out. We'll go, Lisa, you're next on the list.
Thanks. Really great job. I was part of some of the conversations on the value engineering, so those conversations are very lengthy, very difficult. Matt is trying to give you the synthesized version of them, but a lot more discussion goes in to those conversations when we're having them. So just to give people an idea of really the thoughtfulness that goes into these. So I just want to make sure, when you say it's first on the list, so if we can add things back in, you're kind of making that list of things that we might go to, is that correct?
Yeah, for the added alternates.
Yeah.
Yep.
So one of the things that I wanted to bring up in the value engineering part of it was specifically those radiant panels, and correct me if I'm wrong, Matt, but as you said, this reduces our ability to go carbon neutral. Is that accurate?
It reduces things which can do it, so you would have to up the type of boilers and also add additional radiant panels in the piping associated with it. So it's fairly intrusive kind of modification to the project. However, it's not to say that you couldn't, well, it's not to say that that will get you to net zero in and of itself. There's no guarantee of it. And it's not to say that you still couldn't meet net zero with gas boilers. It's just the trend we're seeing that people are trying to go away from combustion fuel on site and utilizing electricity. But you could still use the gas boilers and utilize higher in emissions by purchasing green power, let's say, to get to that would offset the fossil fuel use on site.
Can you repeat that last part when you said buy green power? You broke up. I didn't quite hear.
Because you would still burning fossil fuel on site with the gas boilers, you could offset that by purchasing green power off the grid.
All right.
So you're in net zero. No.
Yeah, I just wanted to make sure people were aware that, you know, it's not a green thing that we're doing, that we are going to lose a point on it. And I get that you're saying it's, you know, it's a little more technical and intrusive, so that, you know, it's easier. But I just want to make sure people are aware of that. I think in a time where people are thinking about it being environmentally friendly, reducing our carbon footprint, reducing the use of fossil fuels, to me that was a big thing to take away the ability to do that. Otherwise, I didn't really have any other changes. Part of the conversation, I think we talked about some of the walls around the building that were potentially all granite versus concrete. I don't see those on the list. Are we keeping granite walls?
Good point. I probably should have kept those on the scope highlights, but yes, we are keeping the granite walls, the seat walls, and sometimes act as retaining walls around the front of the building.
And my understanding was the granite was a lot more expensive than just the concrete. Was there a conversation about that?
Yes, but we have to afford it, and it makes for good longevity of installation. The one caveat is that we did look into being able to make those out of locally sourced granite from within the town, but the source in town is not able to granite in that dimension. So it will have to be from a different source.
Okay. And then just one other comment. I do like the look of the triangle ceiling. It's my understanding it's a lot more expensive than the original design. Is that accurate?
Yes, there's a significant price tag with it.
Okay. So, I keep in mind that, that would be on my short list of things to replace if we could get to a place where we're a little more environmentally friendly with the building. So that's my 2 cents. Thank you.
Thanks. Can you just give an overview of how more energy efficient this building is with this current design than the current building?
It's difficult to compare it to the current building because the building doesn't provide the same features that the new design will. For instance, ventilation, extensive ventilation throughout the building, or the cool that we have. It's hard to compare this design to other buildings being built now with similar features that would just be built to meet the energy code. And right now, on the order of, I would say it's about 8% more efficient than a building that to just meet code. And if you just go back a few years, it's substantially more efficient to the buildings that were being built, let's say, 5 years when the code wasn't as stringent.
And what level of LEED are we going to achieve?
We're talking so there's 4 levels. There's certified silver, gold, and platinum. It's very difficult to get platinum, but silver is a good level to meet for a public school building.
Thank you.
And if I could just make one more comment, Ted, if that's okay. I of course this building is going to be much more efficient than one built in 1960. I guess my point is each year that we build buildings, they become more efficient. So I just don't want to box us into any corners where it's going to become practically impossible for us to ever get to more efficiency if we chose to do so. So if we had an opportunity to hold on to something that would allow us to go to a less impactful building, then great, but I understand the implications as to why we're not making that choice right now.
Yeah, I just didn't want to exaggerate the impact of one item on the entire building. But Kathy, try again. I think there's only one of you now.
Thank you. Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay, great. Thanks, Matt and team. I love that we have the Van Loop canopy extended all the way and that we went back to the original town square materials. I was a little worried about all that acrylic. I have a couple of questions. I don't know if I should just list them and then Matt could answer them or Ted. In our meetings with the abutters, has there been any additional cost to the project to make things that they want when we negotiated with the abutters? Have there been any change in the abatement and demolition because of the coronavirus? Is there any change in that timeline? On your value management page, unless I didn't hear you, I don't think you hit on the bathroom tile going from 5'4" to 3 feet. That, to me, I'm a little concerned about the cleaning and the abuse and just the look of it. A 3-foot high tile wall. I don't understand that. And you were broken up on the solar panels. We're not using solar panels, are we? And I think that's my question.
I'll take the abutter one first, and then Matt, you can address, I think, the other 4.
Okay.
We're still in negotiations with an abutter with regard to the impact. We have made some adjustments that could increase the cost. They're minor, like such things as more plantings and height of the fence in certain places. But that's still a work in progress. But we don't expect the overall impact to be huge financially. And then I'll let Matt take over from the demo abatement, or if he'll wants to take the demo abatement schedule and then get to VM, tiles, and solar.
Yeah, why don't Simon, if you, or Inger, or even Brendan, I don't know who's the best one to take the abatement.
Well, I can start. That we at this point we don't really have any impact on the abatement. In fact, we've used the time that the children are out of the school. On Monday morning, we started actually doing some of the partition work that we were going to do during the April vacation. So I hesitate to say we're ahead, but we are slightly. But as I said before, we don't know what the impact going forward is going to be. We have grabbed that opportunity to get in there and start doing the work that we would do on April vacation. And if anybody the team wants to add to that, Brendan or Dave. No, I guess not. So that's the story so far.
Thank you.
I'll adjust the toilet tile. So in the toilet room, we call for a design that has full height tile, floor to ceiling tile on the wet wall of the bathroom, so where a sink or where a toilet is.
Okay.
In addition to that, the other walls we carry as a coat. This is going down to a level that still provides abuse resistance for things that could bump up against the walls. But we think it's sufficient. It's something that we do in schools all the time. I'll just note that this is 3'4" because the height of the tile is in the base at the bottom of the wall is 4 inches, so the top of the tile is actually at 3'4".
And solar?
Panels, we do not have them as part of our project. However, the building is designed to take them in the future. So we've seen, so we have the structural capacity is there. We're putting in conduits that go from electrical panel locations up to the roof that they can pull the wires. But we've had other clients who, after a project is finished, go out and do what's called a PPA. And they have a private company come in and install them under an agreement with them. Possible even that the town could find money to do it at some point and add it to the roof themselves.
What's that, Kathy?
I think so. It came in a little broken up, but I guess I'll trust them on the bathroom as far as abuse. The wet walls are all covered.
Yes.
3'4" seems a little lower. I can't picture it yet, but that's okay.
Okay, thanks. Matt Me, and you're next. Comments, questions? Matt did ask something in the chat about any impacts to the acoustics in the auditorium.
The only real question I had was, great job on the reduction, but what is the impact on acoustics with the reduction of, over, you're looking at 20 or 19 tiles, ceiling reflectors in the auditorium? Is it significant, or is it within the design parameters?
It's within the design parameters, and the reason that we had the 50 in there originally wasn't so much for the acoustics. It was more to screen all the stuff that's up in the ceiling, like the catwalks and the ductwork and the lighting fixtures. So those reflectors we're using as clouds to kind of create a more continuous plane of ceiling that you're looking at. Only some of them were really needed for acoustics. So in taking those away, we just accepted that. We're going to paint everything black there, we'll have some that hang down at that plane and kind of are the things that your eye will stop at, and the rest of it will just be kind of hard to see up there.
Okay. He's all set. What's that, Matt?
Okay, thank you.
Yep. Mel?
Yes, thank you.
Thanks.
Okay, thank you. I just wanted to thank everybody for this work. I know you said was saying as well is that there's a lot behind the scenes, a lot of people working really hard on this, and I'm really excited that we're able to get to our number without any real impact on our students or their learning at this point. I just want to thank everybody, and I'm all set for questions.
Thanks. Who's next? Nate, you're next. Any questions, comments?
I just want to thank everyone for the hard work, similar to others. I think the van loop is really a great addition. I haven't heard the discussion so far regarding the local granite, but I think that's an absolutely fantastic idea. And even pushing to the 90% set or wherever we go from here, to the extent possible, where we could even if we didn't go to solid granite, but if we could introduce it as a part of an assembly, if there's some way we could introduce local Weymouth granite into this project, I think everyone would be all for it. Setting cost aside, assuming that's in line. And then my only real question is, for the generator on this project, the 250 kV, was that the lower end or the higher voltage generator? Because I know we had two options before. I thought this was the lower, and we had a potential for a 500 kV that was on the table. Matt, is that correct?
That is correct, Nate. The options were between the 250 and the 500.
Okay. I guess my only thought there is thinking of the current events. I know the building isn't designed as a shelter. It's not going to be permitted as a shelter because it has all sorts of building code and permit consequences. However, if the need ever arose in the future to have a building with a stronger generator capacity, it might be worth entertaining or at least seeing what the price is to add that back into the ad alternate to get real pricing on it. I know, again, it's not going to be used as a shelter, but I've seen crazier things where all of a sudden the town has an override to use it as a temporary shelter, and they file a petition to override the building code for an emergency basis. And it just might be something that's good to have in our back pocket, or at least know what the real bid number is to add something like that to the project.
I just want to say something about that. We have been kind of using that approach up till now, but our electrical engineer has asked that we make a decision point on it because it's really a completely thing of the building. We have the big frequency generator, which is kind of amps us to make a decision.
It kind of broke up there, but I understand that we needed to kind of make a decision on that, and we've for now stuck with the 250 kV. But I just thought it was worth bringing up as a discussion point. But.
Thanks. And Matt, Ken, I believe you had a conversation with the Weymouth Granite folks.
We did, and again, they don't do the bigger dimension pieces. We can certainly look at getting something into this that is in more of a veneer kind of type of situation, like tile or something. So let us think about that and try to come back with some proposals.
Great, thanks. Brian, you're up next.
Thanks, Ted. No questions, only comments I had. To echo Kathy and Nate, figuratively, I guess. It's nice to see the canopy van loop added back. And then, again, just as others mentioned, thanks to everyone, the amount of work that was done, especially navigating the remote work that was done the last couple of weeks was great.
Thank you. And I think our last committee member is Tom. Any comments, Tom?
Yeah, hi. Yeah, absolutely grateful for all the great work looking for those cost-saving measures. Love that you've gone back to those different surfaces in the town square. I'm still a little unsure about the triangular panels. They look great, but they're truly an extra cost to those. It might be worth looking at some sort of alternatives to that, or some way to shave some savings off of that, and maybe put that back into some more of the green work. But overall, really like everything here, and don't really have any questions.
Thanks, Tom. As I jumped over our Vice Chairman, John, any comments or questions?
No, nothing in particular. My only comments were on the changes to the town square. I think it's awesome, especially the muted paint colors of the wood that we're back to. And the other question is just on the repointing of the brick. Is that going to cause a problem if we let that go?
The repointing of the brick was really something the estimators assumed we needed, but they didn't understand that we were completely adding over all of the existing.
As long as it's, not going to cause a problem 2 years after the project's completed, I'm okay with it.
Yeah, it won't.
Okay.
Thank you, I appreciate it.
Any committee members have any additional comments before we try others in the room? No. If there's anyone else in the room from the public that has a comment, just unmute yourself and identify yourself and ask your question.
Hey, John Sullivan, just one. Maybe I can just rattle off a couple like Kathy did, and you can answer them all at once, and I'll get out of your way. I share her skepticism over the tile in the bathroom. I think it'd be interesting to look at something like that. I think once you get into shoulder height or below, even on a non-wet wall, you can see some damage from that. I forget who else it was. Love to see please get to the 90mm roof. I know that that's top of the list. Are there places where we can do some cost savings in, for example, the ceiling tiles we were talking about, or things like that, to prioritize that? I think one of the things that we would demonstrate if we did that roof is that we had learned our lesson. We have a building now with a lot of roof problems, and so hardening that seems wise given who we are. A couple of small questions. Granite, I understand that it has a better wear and tear life, but I'm wondering about repair. It seems like a concrete, you can recast it and repair it fairly easily. The granite, just to see if there's any concerns about that with the normal wear and tear it would get. Obscure question, really early in the presentation where you had the steel in red, I noticed there was some red steel over the current basketball court, but no steel around it. I'm wondering if that means that we need steel in that basketball area, or is that just a documentation of what's there so we can do that from an engineering standpoint? Thanks.
Thanks, Tom.
I can address the granite question and the steel question. The granite will be more longer lasting and better at wearing than concrete. Granite can become a problem when you use it in a veneer situation and for its application is not thick enough. But what we're talking about is pretty sizable pieces and sections. So it'll last longer than concrete. And then the other consideration is that it's pretty hard to get good quality cast in place concrete, stuff that you'll be kind of happy with looking at as a finished material. you can think of the foundation of a house and what that looks like, and that's not something that we'd be after. We'd look for something of a higher finish level, but the craft of the concrete trades is pretty variable, and it's hard to get great concrete that looks good. The steel question, I'm thinking maybe you're talking about the steel over the gym basketball court, so enclosing the gymnasium, which is all existing, and that's reflected in the blue that you saw. There are bigger beams there because of the span, and they have small secondary beams which span between them, and we have all the support that we need to include the gym.
Thanks.
Thanks, Tom. And I'll just add that, I mean, we were prepared to eliminate the granite as a cost measure to balance the budget, if you will. We just didn't need to, so that will be an option to us in the next round. But like Matt said, there were some concerns raised about the past in place that we'll need to talk out if we come to that decision point. Anyone else in the room have a comment or question? Either hit your hand button or unmute and ask your question. Looks like we're good. Want to go to the next slide, Matt?
Yep. Oops.
So
Sorry.
I'll just, Sean, if you could make a motion.
Yep. All right. Mr. Chairman, I make a motion that the Weymouth School Building Committee endorse the submittal of the Maria Weston Chapman Middle School 60% construction document submission to the MSBA. You need to say pursuant to the FCT's approval of the said submission on the March 31st, 2020 meeting. The committee also votes to approve the accepted value management recommendations presented at the meeting.
Second.
Thank you. Any discussion on the motion? I'm going to take a roll call, similar to what I just did with the questions. Just say yay or nay or no. Donna?
Yay.
Thank you. John McLeod?
Yay.
Kathy?
Yes.
Thank you. Lisa?
Yes.
Matt?
Yes.
Thank you. Melanie?
Yes.
Thank you. Nate?
Yes.
Thank you. Brian?
Yay.
John?
Absolutely yes.
Thank you. And Tom?
Yay.
And the chair votes yes. I believe that's everyone. I missed someone. Speak up now. So I believe that's 10 of us, so 10-0. It passes. Any other comments or questions before we adjourn?
I'm here.
What's that?
Kathy has her hand up.
One sec here. Hey, Kathy.
All right, yes, I wanted to bring this up. I know we have plenty of time, but myself and Lisa Pompeo Schumann, we have presented a letter to the Memorial Committee to consider naming the new auditorium or performing arts center at Chapman after Joyce McDonough. So it's in the early stages, but I just want to let the committee know that that's some thought process going forward. Thank you.
Okay, I appreciate it. Anyone else? So after this, Matt, can you just explain what the, next threshold and, vote will be and where we go from here?
On Monday, we'll submit the package to the MSBA. They'll review it, and they typically take about 3 weeks to comment. We're not expecting anything major at this stage. We'll respond to their comments. In the meantime, we're proceeding ahead towards the 90% submission deadline. And I don't have the date of that on the head, I'm sorry. In the meantime, we have a second big package which is going out in mid-May. That is for foundation steel and elevators and other minor scope. So with that, we'll have additional feedback on where we stand with how we're doing against the budget. If things are under at that point, we can take that as savings in our budget, the last cost estimating round, or you could choose to keep it as a buffer. And then we're all pursuing towards a final 100% document submission on August 12th, I believe it is.
Okay.
That submission does not have a cost estimate associated with it. It does an MSBA submission. It's simply completion of the documents, which can then be for bids by bond voters.
Great. Thank you. All right. Before I ask for a motion, I'll just ask once again if anyone has any questions or comments. Sean, do you want to make a motion to adjourn?
I'd like to make a motion to adjourn the meeting.
Second.
Thank you. I'm going to do a roll call for adjourning. Donna?
Yes.
John?
Yay.
Kathy?
Yes.
Lisa?
Yes.
Matt?
Yes.
Mel?
Yes.
Nate?
Yes.
Brian?
Yes.
Sean?
Yes.
And Tom?
Yes.
And the chair votes yes. I thank everyone. I hope everyone's in good health and stays in good health. Good luck.
Thanks, Ted, you too.
Thank you.